केवल विरोध जताने के लिए खैरा ने ऐसा किया है, तो केवल विरोध जताने के लिए विरोध का तरीका गलत है।
As Delhi struggles with killer smog, China is all set to test drones to clear its smog-filled skies by spraying chemicals over pollutants. Chinese scientists believe spraying will help the pollutants fall to the ground. Here's more.
As India's capital chokes on smog and citizens gasp for breath, it could take a few lessons on fighting this killer pollution from its neighbor China. Beijing has also been battling pollution crisis, with PM 2.5 levels reaching 505 micrograms per cubic meter. Much higher than the maximum level considered to be safe, which is 25. Beijing air has been so toxic for the past week that scientists have equaled smog to the effects of a nuclear winter. But China has now declared a war on pollution. It has deployed new measures that will make China's capital see the cleanest winter in years. The solution? Drones that are designed to clear the toxic smog. Trials for the unmanned aerial vehicle are expected to take place near airports and ports later this month. These drones will be able to carry up to 700 kilograms of smog cleaning chemicals that can be used within a 5-kilometer radius. For several years, China has used aeroplanes and fixed-wing drones to spray chemicals in the air which freeze pollutants, allowing the particles to fall to the ground. But that's not all. Besides its 4-tier system of alerts that calls for emergency measures, from stopping construction sites to odd-even vehicle bans, Beijing has also pushed through larger structural changes. For instance, to reduce air pollution that coincides with the turning on of central heating systems and raised coal burning, the city has operationalized its 4 gas-fired plants, which will go on trial this week before the heating period begins. The 4 plants will cut coal consumption by 9.2 million tons, authorities said. Stricter checks on construction companies have also been put in place. 9 construction companies have been suspended from bidding on projects in Beijing for the next 30 days. Over 1,500 high-emission vehicles have been prevented from entering the city.
In Beijing, as in Delhi, one of the big sources of pollution is actually not from the city, but from coal burning in villages that lie surrounding Beijing, such as this village, which is about 50 kilometers away from Beijing. So what the Chinese government has done as of last year, they've completely banned the use of coal in villages such as this by setting up CNG stations, which serve as many as 6 villages that surround China's capital, thereby phasing out entirely the use of coal.
可以减少大约1320吨的这个二氧化硫的排放和大约是320吨的氮氧化物的排放。
The strict measures seem to be working. Beijing's average PM 2.5 particulate density dropped to 60 micrograms per cubic meter in the first 3 quarters of this year. This was down 3.2% compared with the same period last year and down 34.8% compared with 2013. The question now is, when will New Delhi press the panic button?
As of 2016, when the government completely stopped the use of coal and completely shifted to CNG in more than 6 to 8 villages here 50 kilometers from Beijing. The result, as we see, is just blue skies and no more coal-powered pollution. Can this be a solution that India can adopt as it looks to clean up Delhi's skies? We can only hope for the best. Reporting for India Today in Miao-Argang near Beijing, this is Anand Krishnan.
And Anant Krishnan is with us on the phone line from Beijing this afternoon. Anant, you're telling us about this experiment that's likely to be conducted soon. Are scientists planning to carry out this experiment of spraying over pollutants only over Beijing or over other parts of China as well?
Well, Simi, that's something that they are now rolling out not just in Beijing, but in other parts of northern China as well that suffer from smog in the winter. And I think that's just one of many weapons that they've been deploying in this fight against smog. And I think the lesson is there's no one quick fix-it. It's a structural problem that requires a structural change on many levels. Whether it's traffic in Beijing, whether it's an alert system that calls for emergency measures in construction sites and vehicles, or as we were seeing even in surrounding areas, in villages in as many as 4 states, they've clamped down on coal. So I think the big lesson here is that there's no one quick fix it, and it requires a larger structural effort to battle this problem.
Right, and Anant, is this how the air over Beijing is every day, or like Delhi, is it a seasonal thing? In Delhi, I guess it's usually towards the onset of winter that we see a heavy smog.
That's quite similar here as well, Simi. I think a lot of it has to do with the fog and the cold air that comes in November. And we have to remember in Beijing, it's an even harder problem because unlike in Delhi, Beijing actually provides central heating for all of its residents. And this, of course, brings a huge burden in terms of coal-fired plants. So, in fact, Delhi is suffering this problem without even providing central heating as Beijing does. And what they have been doing is slowly trying to phase out coal-fired plants, bringing in clean coal, bringing in CNG. And it is a work in progress. By no means have they fixed this problem. And I think the fact that they've been spending billions of dollars over the last 4 or 5 years and only managed a 30% decrease shows how far Delhi has to go if it really wants to solve this problem.
Right. And Anant, what are the other measures that the Chinese government has put into place to ensure that the pollution levels actually fall?
Well, Simi, I think this winter, perhaps they've rolled out the most aggressive measures we've seen, and it started very early because they were saying that in the past they were rolling out these measures as in Delhi in October, November. But since September, what they've been saying is they're going to force companies to cut down on their emissions, and they've been monitoring this in a very strict way, not just in Beijing, but in 4 or 5 states in northern and northeastern China. And beyond that, they've also been rolling out this 4-tier system that we reported on, which forecasts smog. And when they have a reliable forecast of smog, what they do is 3-4 days earlier put in an orange or red alert, which requires construction sites to stop, heavy vehicles to stop coming to the city. So as I was reporting, it's a multi-pronged approach, and it seems to be that's the only way to tackle this menace.
All right, Anand, thanks so much for bringing us this ground report from China. We're going to keep coming back to you for more. All right, while several measures are being announced to fight pollution in Delhi, police and authorities have failed to implement them. India Today's teams carried out a reality check on steps taken by the Lieutenant Governor and Environment Pollution Panel that include allowing only trucks with essential goods inside the city. A ban on all construction work across the national capital was also announced earlier. In reality, all the trucks are being allowed into the city without a prior check at the border. Not even that, even construction work is continuing despite the ban.
जो जितने भी ट्रक है बैन हो गए हैं, क्यों यहाँ से निकल रहे हैं?
यहाँ वापस करने की जगह ही नहीं, वापस करने का यहाँ कोई यूटर्न नहीं है। यहाँ से अगर एंट्री कर गए तो फिर आश्रम से पहले कोई यूटर्न नहीं है।
हम जितने ट्रक देख रहे हैं सभी आ रहे हैं।
वहाँ हमारा यूपी पड़ता है, वहाँ हमारा जाने का मतलब नहीं है। हम अपने दिल्ली में कर सकते हैं।
We have Parveena Purkayastha, who's with us live from the national capital. Parveena, you know, this is a difficult situation, even though the Green Courts and the Supreme Court have announced clear guidelines to ensure that that there is some sort of check on pollution in the national capital region. None of those rules seem to be followed on the ground. Crop burning is rampant in Punjab and Haryana. Trucks with all sorts of goods are being allowed into the national capital, and construction is still going on.
Oh yes, Simi, everything seems to continue like any other day, but one need to realize that it is high time that, because remember, it is just not now dangerous for respiratory related issue related patients, but as you and me with sound health will also suffer in long term, because particulate matter 2.5 enters your bloodstream, and the repercussion comes after even 5 years, 10 years or 20 years. We might not realize now what is the result, but it really affects years later. So one need to understand the seriousness of it. Just not that, even as I speak, like I mentioned, reiterated how difficult it is, because to put this on and talk is difficult. If you remove it, we know that how bad air we are breathing. The school children
Absolutely, Parveena, but one wonders what's the way out. Now, the Lieutenant Governor has said that only trucks carrying essential commodities will be allowed inside the capital. Yet, when our reporters spoke to traffic cops, they A, weren't aware of any such announcement. B, they said that those trucks have already reached Delhi's borders and are on their way in. If you stop them, it will lead to massive traffic jams across the capital. All right, we seem to be having some trouble on that line with Parveena. We'll try and reconnect with her in a bit. Even as Delhi chokes under a thick cover of smog, a petty blame game has started. Delhi Chief Minister Kejriwal has blamed crop burning in Punjab and Haryana for Delhi's poor air quality. But moments after Kejriwal sought to pass the buck to neighbouring states, his own Punjab MLA Sukhpal Singh Khair was caught on camera burning stubble in Ludhiana. Under fire, Khair claims that he was only doing it in protest against the Punjab government. When questioned, Khair said that he hasn't seen the video. Kejriwal said that he hasn't seen the video. He also defended Khair, saying that he must have done it in protest.
अगर केवल विरोध जताने के लिए खैरा ने ऐसा किया है, तो केवल विरोध जताने के लिए विरोध का तरीका गलत है। अगर किसान कर रहे हैं, किसानों का जैसे मैंने कहा कि वो मजबूरी में कर रहे हैं।
I have done nothing wrong. I stand by what I have said and done. Here is a National Green Tribunal order of October 2015. 2 years back, the NGT told the state governments and also the center government that the stubble should not be burned, it should be consumed in the soil. But for doing that, they have laid down guidelines. For 1 to 3 acres, the farmers have to pay this much, the 3 to 5 have to pay this much, and 5 beyond have to pay. And the government is supposed to provide equipment, because you need heavy machinery, you need heavy tractors to consume the stubble in the soil. And the burning of paddy has been going on for many years. I know that Arvind Kejriwal ji is trying to speak to the Chief Minister of Haryana and Punjab. They are not taking his calls. And I think that Arvind Kejriwal is right from his Delhi point of view, that there's a lot of smog building up in Delhi. But what about the suicides in Punjab? The farmers and the small marginal khet majdoors, they are committing suicides for as little as 1 lakh rupees. So if they don't burn stubble, they'll have to pay 5,000 rupees per acre more if they have to arrange the machinery and get the things done. So where do they get the money? It's a failure of the Punjab government not to implement the orders of the NGT, and it is nobody's fault. It is not the farmers' fault.
Now they are looking for odd even as a knee-jerk reaction of 4 days. But why not? I mean, Mr. Kejriwal talks about melting Delhi as a Singapore city. But Singapore is whole of Singapore is one-way city. But why can't we start thinking on this level? That how can we ensure that Delhi city becomes red light free, no intersection, and either we have underpass or we have one-way traffic going on. I mean, that will help you as a long-term solution.
Climate change in the environment is something that doesn't often occupy the front pages of coverage. It is largely seen as an elitist concern. I remember Murli Manohar Joshi calling climate change a myth on the floor of Parliament a few years ago. I remember Prime Minister Modi last year chalking it up to aging, saying that लोग जैसे ज़ईफ होते जाते हैं, उम्र बढ़ती जाती है, उन्हें ठंड ज़्यादा लगती है, मौसम नहीं बदला, लोग बदल गए. I find this low-level public discourse to be on the verge of climate denial. We are faced with the problem. Every country is. But every country is defined by how it chooses to respond to something like this. I want to say one thing. Look, the Congress, and this is by no means a forum where we should, toot our own horn and say we did this. But our record when it came to climate change and to the environment was far ahead of these guys. In fact, we were accused by them of often placing climate ahead of developmental concerns. I remember when Jairam Ramesh was the environment minister, he was roundly criticized by the opposition for stalling projects. And may I add, ma'am, this is an important indication of the stance. Mr. Jairam Ramesh is now an ex-officio appointee to the UN Framework on Climate Change Convention. He's an ex-officio invitee to the panel for his work done on the subject of environment. So I would say if you do good work, people will recognize it, but stop debating and start taking action. It's about time.
As Delhi's air quality deteriorates, water sprinklers have been pressed into action. The Delhi government is also set to bring back the odd-even formula. Kejriwal government is planning to implement the third phase of odd-even from the 13th of November to the 17th of November. The move comes hours after the Green Tribunal and Delhi High Court came down heavily on the state governments, blaming them for the pollution menace.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.